Hello everyone, AlphaSoul here with another video. Today we're going to go ahead and talk about the Ashes of Creation Battle Royale, or the Apocalypse update that was released on Steam yesterday and ran for about 12 hours. Now, precursor to this video, this will be talking about specifically the Battle Royale. There'll be some tidbits that kind of go into some of the MMO portions, but this is largely going to be focused around the Battle Royale, the Steam release, and that particular mode. So, as many of you know, the assets that are being used within the Battle Royale are also being used in the MMO, so kind of that's where the tie-in goes, but it will be focused on the Battle Royale mode. So, if that's not your cup of tea, feel free, click away, no harm, no foul, all right? So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. Now, the footage that you see in the background is the footage from that particular Battle Royale. I think I played something like 22 games. I did a lot of playing kind of throughout that time. So yeah, so I got a good amount of time with it, and I want to go ahead and give you guys my thoughts on the Battle Royale. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, the very first thing that I saw was obviously with the download and using Steam, the download and just acquiring the game and beginning the game was actually very quick. I'm assuming they use Steam servers, and I've never had a problem with Steam servers, so updating it and getting the client up and running was a very quick effort. So, the Steam, I guess, release accomplished that fact. Once I actually loaded up the game, the very first thing that I noticed was the character models. The character models have undergone an improvement. They look a little bit more fleshed out, more detailed, and in general, just a lot better. The opening lobby also looks better. They've changed the way it performs better than it did before, and they've changed the way that it looks and the way that it feels and the way that it functions as well too. It's definitely a lot better than before, and there are just little things there that make it better than before. There were still some issues with it, specifically with party grouping. Even though we didn't get a chance to test party grouping, there were some issues with not being able to see the leave party button and things of that nature, but it is what it is. Upon kind of leaving and going into and entering an actual match, that's where some of this other feedback goes in. So in the lobby, another thing that I noticed was they actually have little critters that are running around in the world as well too. So many of you may remember the Quarrier that was released. It's a small little pet that was seen running around. This little, what is it called? Like little insect was seen running around within the map. So the map in general looks more fleshed out. The world looks more realistic. It looks less copy-pasty and things like that, but more, lush vegetation and more things to actually look at. So that world is far more detailed. The map, both the mini map and the actual map, look better. They've, got the roads, the paths, and it looks more like a true map that one would see inside of game rather than what we saw before, which I believe was a placeholder. So that looks better. Now, overall performance is actually much better as well too. The performance, for those of you who don't know, I'm going to go ahead and post my rig here on the side for what I do. I always, play with a good rig. I've got a good computer to work with, so I always play on the highest settings, absolutely. So when I see a slowdown that comes from it, I usually attribute that to no optimization kind of in place or poor optimization. So this time I actually did not experience any slowness, any degradation of combat. Didn't matter how many people I had on screen or anything like that. I would always be able to, perform at maximum FPS, if you will, for that. So always looked great on my screen, always performed perfectly fine. So I can't really comment as somebody who has a lower rig or anything like that. But the performance was good. The thing that I was looking for specifically was how it would handle 100 players. In the previous test, there were always, I think, like 30 players where it was the usual that were in a match. Just because once you started going up, you could definitely see the server performance degrade. But with 100 players, there was no degradation of performance. So I thought that was working, on par, and I'm curious to see what their new max is of what they can actually put up for it. So very positive on that respect. Now, gameplay wise, the first thing to notice was the Griffin. They've changed the way that you fly down with the Griffin into the match. Previously, everyone would kind of go into a dive and you could release early, but you would just kind of glide down, right? Now they've given you the ability to go ahead and toggle between a free fall dive and a dive into where you want, or kind of hovering. So the hovering mode allows you to get to farther locations, whereas the dive gets you to the ground quicker. So essentially what it means is it doesn't matter anywhere that the storm actually leaves off. You can wind up at anywhere on the map, depending on where you actually want to go, which is pretty cool. Yeah, so that's the first thing with the Griffin. The second thing is that's not the only time that you can deploy the Griffin now. They've introduced a new skill. The new skill is called Heroic Leap or something like that. Essentially, you hold down the control button, aim your mouse cursor high, and let it go. At that point, you're going to leap into the air and kind of have this kind of glide free fall ability. But when you get up there, you can actually deploy your Griffin to, you know, keep flying and keep going into another direction, which definitely changes the meta of the game, if you will. I'm not sure exactly how to feel about this particular change just yet, just because it's definitely changed the meta in that you have to, when fighting someone, specifically from like either mid-range or long range, you can no longer count on like whittling them down and running up to them because also there's another change in it. It's actually quicker to repair your armor, right? So what I mean by that is if you get hit, one, you can just go behind a rock, and from long range, I mean, you can just go behind a rock, you know, heal yourself. But if somebody is chasing you as well too, all you really have to do is LOS them, get out of the line of sight, charge your Heroic Leap, fly up, and then try and escape, basically. And they'll, you know, have to either do the same thing, chase you down, or, you know, they're kind of SOL. The one thing I've noticed, it is easy to hit somebody if they're on the Griffin in the air. I shot multiple people in the air, and I actually shot one person out of the air. I just flat out killed them. So I think that the hitbox gets bigger, but it still is enough where it's kind of like, it seems really easy to kind of get away and maneuver, and it kind of makes things like the castle and choke points and things like that irrelevant, if you will, because you can just charge up, leap your way, you know, to another place, and that's kind of it. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure how to feel about that, but it is what it is. So horses are now available. They're all over the place. You know, you can hop on one. It really does make it easier to traverse the world, but I suspect the same hitbox thing. You can easily shoot them off. I shot many people off their horses, and it's like one hit and I think they go down, but it is very easy to do that. And I'm not too worried about the horses. The horses are, you know, what they are, and I don't think they're too huge gameplay changing it at. Let's see. Destruction is better. When things break, it looks more organic. It's not perfect yet, but it looks a lot better than it did before. You kind of see things shatter into pieces, and it's a pretty cool animation. There's more detail on all items as you kind of go through. So, you know, if you highlight over something, you'll see an indicator of what kind of quality it is, the damage that it does if it's a weapon, how much armor it's going to take off if you hit with a weapon, or if it's a piece of armor, how much armor it's going to actually do. And there are some short descriptions kind of mixed here or there. So that's pretty cool. The item balance is better. Overall, it does seem like most of the weapons are useful. I still think the bulwark chest is absolutely worthless. Can't stand that thing. But, you know, well, maybe they'll correct it. So let me touch on melee combat first. Melee combat in general, it's less Wiffle Batty, less jousty. Now there is an animation or combat kind of lock when you hit, so you can't just hit somebody and immediately swivel or get away or anything like that. When you hit somebody, you're kind of locked in place. And it took me a while to kind of get used to that new paradigm, but it is fine. But that combat locking actually changed the meta, if you will. One of the things that I used to do, and you can see that on my videos, use the great sword and used haste and kind of hit somebody, run, hit somebody, run, hit somebody, run, and you're almost kind of like a shark or something like that, and just constantly hitting and, you know, moving your opponent, if you will. But you can't do that. Now you're locked in place, and as such, the great sword really isn't as good as it was before. It still has its place. It's just not the monster that it was before. Another thing, polearm usage is, or I should say, there's a marked difference, especially within the lunges of one-handed weapons versus two-handed weapons. Two-handed weapons generally go much farther. The halberd, for example, the life-stealing halberd, I think is like the longest range, if not for, yeah, it's got a pretty long range. And so a lot of people, when they came up against me, made the mistake of pulling out a ranged weapon and thinking they could hit me like once or twice before I would close the gap. But I would just close the gap instantly with the two-handed weapon, and, you know, before they could react, basically they would be almost dead by that point. So Yeah, but there's a difference. The one-handed weapons, they do not, it's like half the distance or something like that. They don't lunge nearly as far, so it's a lot different. But yeah, overall, I think my favorite two weapons were the Spirit Pierce, which has a stamina drain, and also the Thundering Mace, which kind of has a proc as well. Thundering Mace just hits really, really, really hard, really fast. So if you have good aim and you can get in close to them, you can do some damage really quickly, really fast, and they probably won't get away from you. Spirit Pierce, it's, attrition basically. Eventually you get 1, 2, or 3 hits off and they're not going to be able to complete their swings. You're going to be ahead of the thing. You're going to be able to kill them. And it's also got, it's very forgiving in terms of swing range and everything like that. So very nice. Onto range weapons. Range weapons are definitely different. All of them are projectile now. All of the range weapons are projectile. The Longbow miasma feels much more responsive. I've actually been able to land with that, as well as the crossbow, much more frequently than I did before, and it feels a lot better. Nightfall bow is, it's not as one-hit wonder as it was before. It's like the same as pretty much all of them now. They all almost feel like they have the same kind of projectile range and everything like that, or at least tracking and things of that matter. The wand is much better. I was doing some damage with the wand. The drifter is much better, or the rifter, I forgot what the heck it's called. In medium range combat, it is actually, that and the bow of miasma, or the bow of nightfall, are my two favorite weapons. In medium range, the drifter is just really, really powerful. Yeah, it's really good, and combined with its switching ability, the switching ability really disorients people, and you can get even more hits off of them. So fantastic. But overall, range is just easier to hit people now with and feel more organically, kind of like a game. All right, now on to the actual issues themselves. All right, some of the issues that I experienced: the sound is still off. When you're in a building with somebody and they're walking, it sounds like they're on the same floor as you, even though they could be 2 floors above you or a floor above you. It's still off. Some of the sounds are off. Some of the treasure chests make almost no noise, while some of them are blaringly loud. Let's see, the color on items, like when you equip an item, red is the best and blue is the worst. But basically, what shows on your screen is actually reversed. So if you're wearing a red chest, it's going to show that your boots are red, but your chest will be whatever color your boots are, right? So it's mixed and matched. A little annoying, but it's annoying enough that it kind of has to make me think, okay, do I actually need a better chest, or do you need better boots, basically? But there were server freezing issues that we saw. I think they addressed them in their latest patch that happened about 3/4 of the way through. But those freezing issues it wasn't freezing your machine. It was really weird. It was like the server froze itself. And like you can still see like trees and everything swaying, still hear the sound, but your character was just like frozen in place. Running up the hills, for some reason that look feels weird now. It almost feels kind of like I don't know how to describe it. Something feels weird about running up some hills at some angles at some times, and I'm not sure what to attribute it to. Horses running is weird as well too. They don't really handle like small objects really well. Like if you go over an object, it'll kind of be like, kind of blocky, if you will. And then they're also, the most annoying issue that seems to have changed, and I forgot to submit something for this, I will. There seem to be some issues with the storm, specifically on the edges. The way that I play, and again, you can see that for most of my videos, the way that I play is a lot of times I skirt the storm, right? And so a lot of my combat takes place at the side or the edge of the map, and skirting the storm and finding people as we move in. The way that the camera angle is really weird in that if you're close enough to the end of the storm, your camera kind of clips through and it almost appears like you're in the storm when you're not. And it makes it really hard to like aim and to fight at different angles, which makes it's just really annoying at that. I wasn't having that same problem with previous builds, so I think something changed with this one. There was one really annoying like bug that happened. It happened once. Somebody hit me with a Wand of Light in the pre-match lobby, and the Wand of Light's ability is to cast like a ring of light around you so that you appear to everyone. When I got hit with that, and the match transitioned over, that effect appeared on my character throughout the entire game. Now, I asked some people that I ended up killing, after that, if they saw that. They were like, nope, didn't see it. So it means that it was just on my screen. But still, within that match, I actually could not see what was in front of me or around. I couldn't even zoom in on a ranged weapon because that kind of effect was all around me. So that was an annoying bug, but that's what it is. All right. So that's pretty much overall my thoughts on the Battle Royale were overall very positive. The thing that I was really looking forward to was A, more polish, B, this is probably the biggest portion, is the server aspect and the server side of things. The server side of things, they seem to have improved drastically, and if not for that freezing bug, then I would be jumping up and down. I'm still unsure though, however, because they did not do groups in the whole, pretty much in the whole night, which for me, it's kind of like, I can't really judge that as a full thing. Anyways, I'm assuming they're going to have testing again within the next coming days, next coming time, and I'll go ahead and eventually cover that as well too. But for my next episode, I'll be talking specifically about some of the new stuff or the MMO stuff that came out. All right, so that's pretty much it, guys. And actually, there was a new trailer that came out. I want to comment on that, but I'll save that for another video. All right. So let me know what your thoughts are if you got a chance to play. Always curious. Thank you guys. Take care of yourselves, and you guys have a great day. Alpha Soul out.